Captain Crix had seen the historical records. 47 species, thousands of warriors, the greatest minds in galactic civilization. All had tried to claim the ancient sword. All had failed. So when the small human archaeologist stepped toward the crimson blade with nothing but scientific curiosity, Crix almost laughed. He stopped laughing when the weapon that had defied gods for millennia slid into her hand like it had been waiting for her all along. The Forbidden Temple. The twin suns of Zephyria cast long shadows across the crimson desert as Dr. Sarah Chen knelt beside the ancient stone archway that her team had uncovered just hours before. The wind carried particles of red sand that stung her exposed skin, but she barely noticed. After 3 months of careful excavation, they had finally breached the entrance to what appeared to be a massive underground temple complex. Sarah wiped the sweat from her brow and adjusted her wide-brimmed hat. At 32, she had already made a name for herself in the field of xenoarchaeology, specializing in extinct civilizations. But this discovery on Zephyria promised to be her greatest find yet. The energy readings from her scanner were unlike anything she had encountered in her 10 years of exploring dead worlds. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this immediately." The voice belonged to her assistant, Marcus Rivera, whose excited tone cut through the desert wind. He stood at the edge of the excavation site, holding a portable scanner that beeped frantically. Sarah hurried over, her boots crunching on the crystalline sand. "What have you found?" Marcus pointed his scanner toward the archway. "The energy signature is off the charts. Whatever is down there, it's still active after thousands of years. The power source appears to be artificial, but the technology is completely unknown." Before Sarah could respond, the rumble of approaching aircraft filled the air. 3 sleek military transports descended from the pale orange sky, their engines creating small sandstorms as they landed nearby. The lead transport bore the insignia of the Galactic Council's peacekeeping force. A tall reptilian figure emerged from the primary aircraft. Captain Crix of the Vorthak species stood nearly 7 feet tall, his scaled green skin gleaming in the sunlight. His yellow eyes surveyed the excavation site with military precision, and the plasma rifle slung across his back marked him as someone not to be trifled with. "Dr. Chen," Crix approached with measured steps, his voice carrying the distinctive hissing accent of his people. "I am Captain Crix, assigned by the Galactic Council to oversee this excavation. Recent energy readings from orbit have caused considerable concern among the council members." Sarah straightened, meeting his gaze despite the significant height difference. "Captain Crix, I wasn't aware the council had taken interest in my work. This is a standard archaeological expedition under proper permits." Crix's head tilted slightly, a gesture that among the Vorthak indicated curiosity. "Standard expeditions do not typically register energy signatures visible from 3 star systems away, Dr. Chen. The council has reason to believe this site may contain dangerous ancient technology." "Dangerous how?" Sarah crossed her arms. "Every precaution has been taken. My team consists of experienced xenoarchaeologists, and we follow all safety protocols. The danger, Dr. Chen, lies not in your methods, but in what you may discover." Crix gestured toward the archway. "This world has been surveyed 17 times over the past millennium. Each expedition found nothing but empty desert. Yet your human methods have uncovered something that has remained hidden for eons." The compliment, if it could be called that, was delivered without warmth. Sarah had grown accustomed to the mixture of grudging respect and suspicion that many alien species showed toward humanity. Humans were relative newcomers to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago. Yet in that short time, they had demonstrated an uncanny ability to solve problems that had stumped older, more technologically advanced species. "Permission to accompany you into the temple," Crix stated rather than asked. Sarah nodded reluctantly. Despite her reservations about military oversight, she recognized the practical benefits of having additional security. "Very well, but this remains a scientific expedition. Any artifacts discovered will be studied and cataloged according to galactic heritage laws." The entrance to the temple led to a steep stone staircase that descended deep into the planet's crust. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, which were covered in intricate carvings depicting strange symbols and figures. Sarah's translation device struggled to interpret the markings, producing only fragments and uncertain meanings. "The architectural style is completely unknown," Sarah murmured, running her fingers along the carved symbols. "These aren't from any civilization in the database. The mathematical precision is extraordinary, and the preservation is perfect despite the apparent age." Crix examined the walls with his own scanner. Energy residue suggests these carvings were created using plasma tools, but the pattern is unlike any known technology. The builders possessed capabilities that current science cannot explain. As they descended deeper, the temperature dropped noticeably, and the air grew thick with a strange energy that made Sarah's skin tingle. Her scanner readings became increasingly erratic, as if the very atmosphere interfered with modern technology. The staircase eventually opened into a vast circular chamber. Sarah gasped as her headlamp illuminated the space. The chamber was enormous, easily 100 meters in diameter, with a domed ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. Intricate pillars lined the walls, each one carved with different symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed peripherally. But it was the center of the chamber that captured their attention completely. Rising from the floor stood an obsidian altar, its surface so smooth it appeared to be liquid stone. Embedded within the altar's peak was a sword unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The blade glowed with a deep crimson light that pulsed like a heartbeat, casting dancing shadows throughout the chamber. The weapon appeared to be forged from a single piece of unknown metal, with intricate patterns running along its length that matched the carvings on the walls. "By the 7 moons," Crix whispered, his usual military composure cracking. "That is a blade of the Ascended." Sarah turned, sharply. "The Ascended? I've never heard of them." Crix approached the altar cautiously, his scanner held before him like a shield. "Ancient legends speak of the Ascended as the first race to achieve interstellar travel. They supposedly vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago, leaving behind only myths and occasional artifacts. Most scholars believe them to be fictional." The sword's crimson glow intensified as they drew closer, and Sarah felt an odd resonance in her chest, as if her heartbeat was synchronizing with the weapon's pulsing light. "The energy signature is incredible. This thing is generating more power than a small starship. Dr. Chen, I must advise extreme caution." Crix's voice carried a note of genuine concern. "If this truly is Ascended technology, it could be beyond our understanding or control." Sarah circled the altar, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "According to these readings, the blade has been active for at least 50,000 years. If it were dangerous, surely it would have caused problems by now." Her scanner beeped insistently, drawing her attention to a series of smaller symbols carved into the altar's base. Unlike the wall carvings, these her translation device could partially interpret. "Only the worthy may claim the inheritance of the stars," she read aloud. "When the children return to reclaim their birthright, the sword shall awaken to their touch." Crix's scales rustled, a sign of agitation among his people. "Children? Birthright? Dr. Chen, I strongly recommend we contact the council before proceeding further." But Sarah was already studying the altar more closely. As she approached, the sword's glow brightened noticeably, and she felt an almost magnetic pull toward the weapon. "Look at these wear patterns around the blade. Hundreds, maybe thousands of hands have attempted to grasp it over the millennia." She was right. The obsidian around the sword's hilt was worn smooth, polished by countless failed attempts to remove the weapon. Yet the blade itself remained pristine, as if it had never been touched. "The historical records will contain documentation of such attempts," Crix said, activating his communication device. "Permission to access the Galactic Archives?" While Crix communicated with his ship, Sarah continued her examination of the altar. The closer she got to the sword, the stronger the resonance became. It was as if the weapon was calling to her specifically, speaking to something deep in her genetic memory. "Dr. Chen," Crix's voice carried a note of alarm. The archives contain records of 47 documented attempts to remove this blade. Over the past 2 millennia, every major species has tried. The greatest warriors, the most advanced technology, even psionic manipulation has failed. Sarah looked up from her scanner. What kinds of attempts? The Altarian Warrior Guild sent their strongest champions 300 years ago. They used industrial lifting equipment capable of moving starship components. The blade didn't shift a millimeter. Crix scrolled through the data on his device. The Zephyrrian Empire tried quantum manipulation fields. The hegemony attempted to cut the blade free using plasma torches that could slice through battle armor. Nothing worked. And the Council just left it here? The temple was sealed after the last attempt resulted in the death of a Valdorian psionic master. The energy discharge allegedly stopped his 3 hearts simultaneously. Crix looked directly at Sarah. Dr. Chen, 17 species have declared this artifact impossible to remove. We should not... Sarah wasn't listening anymore. The pull from the sword had become overwhelming, drowning out Crix's words. She stepped closer to the altar, her hand reaching toward the weapon almost involuntarily. Dr. Chen, stop! Crix's shout echoed through the chamber, but Sarah's hand was already closing around the sword's hilt. The moment her fingers touched the metal, the world exploded into light and sensation. Visions flooded her mind. Vast fleets of ships sailing between the stars, beings of incredible beauty and power building wonders that spanned solar systems, and always, the crimson blades leading them forward into the infinite darkness. She saw herself, but not herself. A figure that was unmistakably human yet somehow more, standing on the bridge of a ship larger than a city, with the crimson blade at her side and the stars themselves bending to her will. The visions faded as quickly as they had come, leaving Sarah gasping and disoriented. But the sword was no longer embedded in the altar. She held it easily in her hand, the weapon's weight perfectly balanced, its crimson glow now steady and warm, rather than pulsing. Crix stared at her in absolute silence, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. Well, Sarah said, examining the blade with wonder. That was unexpected. The chamber around them began to change. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing banks of crystalline technology that hummed to life. The symbols on the pillars blazed with the same crimson light as the sword, and the air itself seemed to thicken with ancient power, awakening after eons of slumber. Dr. Chen, Crix's voice was barely a whisper. What have you done? Sarah looked at the sword in her hand, then at the chamber transforming around them. I think I've just proven that humans are more than anyone realized. The temple was awakening, and with it, secrets that would change the galaxy forever. The test of worth. The crimson blade hummed softly in Sarah's grip as the ancient temple continued its transformation around them. What had appeared to be solid stone walls now revealed themselves as sophisticated holographic projectors, displaying star maps and alien text that scrolled endlessly through the air. Captain Crix stood frozen, his reptilian features slack with disbelief as he witnessed something that contradicted everything the galaxy believed about human limitations. This is impossible, Crix muttered, his scanner beeping frantically as it tried to process the energy readings flooding the chamber. No species has successfully removed that blade. The historical records are extensive and detailed. Sarah turned the sword in her hand, marveling at its perfect balance. The weapon felt as natural as her own heartbeat, as if it had been crafted specifically for her grip. Maybe the historical records were incomplete. Maybe they weren't testing the right species. Dr. Chen, you must understand the implications of what has occurred. Crix activated his communication device with trembling claws. I must report this immediately to the Council. They will want to study both you and the artifact. Study me? Sarah's voice carried a sharp edge. I'm not a laboratory specimen, Captain. Before Crix could respond, his communication device crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The voice that emerged was deep and authoritative, speaking in the formal dialect of the Galactic Council. Captain Crix, this is Admiral Thoss. We are detecting massive energy fluctuations from your location. Report your status immediately. Crix glanced nervously at Sarah before responding. Admiral, the human archaeologist has successfully removed the artifact from its containment. The temple appears to be activating dormant systems. A long pause followed, filled only by the static of interstellar communication. When Admiral Thoth spoke again, his tone had changed from concern to barely controlled excitement. Impossible. Prepare the human for immediate transport to the Council research facility. We are dispatching a full expedition fleet to your location. Sarah stepped forward, the crimson blade flaring brighter in response to her agitation. I'm not going anywhere until I understand what this is and why I'm the only one who can hold it. The holographic displays around them suddenly shifted, responding to her words. Ancient text appeared in the air before them, but now Sarah's translation device was working perfectly, as if the sword itself was enhancing its capabilities. The children of the Ascended shall return when the galaxy has forgotten its origins, she read aloud. In their hands the tools of creation shall awaken, and the true purpose of the stars shall be revealed. Crix's scales shifted to a deeper green, a sign of extreme agitation among the Vorthok. Children of the Ascended? Dr. Chen, are you suggesting that humans are descended from this legendary race? I'm not suggesting anything, Sarah replied, studying the flowing text. I'm reading what's written here. According to this, the Ascended didn't vanish. They seeded the galaxy with their offspring and went into hiding, waiting for the right time to return. The sound of approaching aircraft interrupted their conversation. Through the temple's newly activated sensors, they could see multiple ships descending toward the excavation site. But these weren't Galactic Council vessels. The designs were unfamiliar, sleek, and predatory. Bounty hunters, Crix hissed, recognizing the ship configurations. Word travels fast when energy signatures this powerful are detected. They'll be hoping to claim salvage rights on the artifact. Sarah felt a surge of protective instinct flow through her, amplified by her connection to the sword. This isn't salvage. This is heritage. The first bounty hunters breached the temple entrance within minutes. Sarah heard their heavy footsteps on the stone stairs, accompanied by the whine of charging energy weapons. She looked around the chamber, noting that the awakened systems had revealed multiple exit passages that hadn't been visible before. Dr. Chen, we must retreat, Crix urged, drawing his plasma rifle. I cannot protect you against an entire raiding party. Maybe you don't need to protect me, Sarah said, raising the crimson blade. The weapon's glow intensified, and she felt knowledge flowing into her mind, not her own knowledge, but the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of sword wielders. The first bounty hunter rounded the corner into the main chamber. He was a Krillian, his insectoid features hidden behind a battle mask, twin plasma pistols already trained on Sarah and Crix. Behind him came two more raiders, a massive Thurian whose rock-like skin could deflect most energy weapons, and a lithe Valdorian whose telepathic abilities made her a deadly opponent. Drop your weapons and surrender the artifact, the Krillian buzzed through his mask's speakers. We claim salvage rights under Section 12 of the Galactic Commerce Code. This isn't salvage. Sarah stepped forward, the sword held confidently before her. This belongs to my people. The Valdorian's mental probe hit Sarah like a hammer blow, seeking to overwhelm her consciousness and leave her helpless. But the crimson blade flared with protective energy, not only blocking the attack but reflecting it back with doubled intensity. The Valdorian stumbled backward, clutching her head in pain. Impossible, she gasped. Her mind is shielded by something, ancient and powerful. The Thurian charged forward, relying on his natural armor to protect him from counterattack. Sarah moved without conscious thought, the sword guiding her movements as she sidestepped his rush and brought the blade around in a perfect arc. The crimson energy sliced through his supposedly impenetrable skin like it was paper, leaving him unconscious but alive on the chamber floor. The Krillian's plasma bolts fired in rapid succession, but Sarah deflected them effortlessly with the sword, the energy dissipating harmlessly against its crimson glow. She advanced steadily, and the bounty hunter's confidence crumbled as his weapons proved useless. "What are you?" he whispered, backing toward the entrance. I'm exactly what I've always been, Sarah replied. I just never knew it before. The remaining bounty hunters fled, leaving their unconscious companion behind. Crick stared at Sarah with a mixture of awe and fear, his weapon lowered but ready. Dr. Chen, your combat capabilities have increased exponentially. The sword appears to be enhancing your natural abilities beyond known human parameters. Sarah examined the blade more closely, noticing details she had missed before. The metal wasn't actually metal at all, but some kind of crystallized energy that responded to her thoughts and emotions. The patterns along its length were constantly shifting, displaying information in a language that she somehow understood, despite never having seen it before. It's not just enhancing my abilities, she said slowly. It's awakening abilities that were already there, dormant genetic traits that have been sleeping in human DNA for millennia. More holographic displays activated around them, showing detailed star charts that covered vast regions of the galaxy. Hundreds of systems were marked with the same symbol that appeared on the sword's blade, a stylized star surrounded by 7 smaller points. These are ascended colony worlds, Sarah realized, touching one of the holographic markers. According to this data, the Ascended established settlements throughout the galaxy before they disappeared. Earth is marked as one of their primary colonies. Crick studied the display with growing amazement. If this is accurate, then humans aren't a young species at all. You're the descendants of the galaxy's first interstellar civilization, which explains why we've been so successful despite being newcomers, Sarah said. We're not actually newcomers, we're coming home. The temple's communication system suddenly activated, displaying incoming signals from across the galaxy. Sarah watched in wonder as hundreds of similar energy signatures began appearing on the display. Other temples, other artifacts, all awakening in response to her successful claim of the Crimson Blade. Dr. Chen, Crick's voice was urgent. My superiors are demanding immediate answers. Admiral Thos is en route with a full battle group and I'm receiving reports of similar activations on 17 other worlds. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The sword had done more than just prove her worthiness. It had triggered a galaxy-wide awakening of ancient human heritage. Somewhere out there, other humans were probably experiencing the same revelations she was, discovering abilities and knowledge they never knew they possessed. What do you recommend, Captain? She asked, recognizing that despite their differences, Crick had proven himself trustworthy. The Council will want to contain this situation, he replied honestly. They've maintained galactic stability by ensuring no single species becomes too powerful. If humans truly are the inheritors of ascended technology, it could disrupt the entire political structure. And you? What do you want? Crick was quiet for a long moment, his yellow eyes studying the incredible displays surrounding them. I want to understand the truth. My people have served the Council faithfully for centuries, believing in their wisdom and authority. But if they've been hiding something this significant, Sarah made her decision. Then help me find the other awakened sites. If humans are truly the children of the Ascended, we need to understand what that means before the Council decides it's too dangerous to allow. That would constitute rebellion against direct orders, Crick warned. Sometimes, rebellion is necessary for the truth to emerge, Sarah replied, the sword pulsing with warm agreement in her hand. Crick holstered his weapon and extended his clawed hand toward her. Then we are partners in this endeavor, Dr. Chen. May the ancestors of both our peoples guide us wisely. As they shook hands, the temple around them completed its transformation. What had been a buried ruin was now revealed as a fully functional command center, with transportation systems, communication arrays, and data repositories that contained the accumulated knowledge of the Ascended civilization. The Council fleet will arrive within 6 hours, Crick reported, checking his instruments. If we're going to leave, it must be now. Sarah took one last look around the chamber that had changed her life forever. The sword in her hand represented more than just a weapon. It was a key to humanity's true heritage and a responsibility that she was only beginning to understand. Then let's go find out who we really are, she said, leading the way toward the transport system that would carry them to the stars and to answers that had been hidden for millennia. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest chapter was just beginning. Awakening of the past. The ascended transport vessel that emerged from the temple's hidden hangar defied every principle of modern starship design. Instead of the bulky, industrial appearance of contemporary craft, it was a graceful fusion of organic curves and crystalline surfaces that seemed to bend light around its hull. Sarah stood on the bridge, the crimson blade secured at her side, watching Zephyria shrink behind them as they climbed toward the stars. The propulsion system is unlike anything in our databases, Crix reported from the navigation console, his clawed fingers dancing over controls that had adapted themselves to his physiology. We're achieving faster than light speeds without generating the typical energy signatures. It's as if the ship exists partially outside normal space. Sarah studied the tactical display showing the Galactic Council fleet approaching Zephyria. Admiral Thas's battle group consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and their escort vessels, enough firepower to sterilize a planet's surface. They're not taking any chances. How long before they realize we've left? Unknown. This vessel appears to be completely invisible to standard sensors. Crix paused, his scales shifting to a thoughtful purple. Dr. Chen, I must ask, how do you know how to operate these controls? This technology is completely alien to both our species. Sarah looked down at her hands, which had been moving across the ship's interfaces with practiced ease, despite never having seen them before. I don't know how I know. It's like the information is just appearing in my mind when I need it. The sword seems to be unlocking genetic memories that have been dormant for thousands of years. The ship's communication system activated, displaying a priority message from the galactic data networks. Sarah accepted the transmission, and the holographic image of a young human man appeared before them. He was standing in what appeared to be another ascended facility, holding a weapon similar to Sarah's blade but forged from gleaming silver metal. My name is David Park, the man said, his voice tense with excitement and fear. I'm broadcasting this message to any frequency that will carry it. 6 hours ago, I found a sword buried in the ruins of an ancient city on New Terra. Since then, I've been experiencing visions, memories that aren't my own. If anyone else is going through this, please respond. Sarah immediately activated the ship's communication array. David, this is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm experiencing the same phenomenon. How many others have made contact? David's relief was visible, even through the hologram. 17 confirmed so far, possibly more. We're scattered across the galaxy, but we're all reporting the same thing. Ancient weapons responding to human touch, visions of a lost civilization, and abilities we never knew we possessed. The awakening is spreading faster than anticipated, Crix observed. The Council will classify this as a potential threat to galactic stability. Another voice joined the communication channel, this one belonging to a middle-aged woman with graying hair and steady eyes. This is Commander Lisa Zhang, of the merchant vessel Starbound. I've been monitoring Council frequencies since this began. They're mobilizing every available asset to contain what they're calling the human anomaly. They've issued orders to capture or eliminate any human who is bonded with an ascended artifact. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. Eliminate? They're talking about genocide? Not genocide, a new voice interrupted. The speaker was an elderly man whose image flickered with interference. Selective termination to prevent what they see as a threat to the established order. I'm Professor James Wright, and I've spent 40 years studying pre-contact human history. What's happening now was predicted in text that the Council ordered destroyed centuries ago. The communication channel filled with voices as more awakened humans joined the conversation. Scientists, explorers, miners, traders, people from every walk of life who had found themselves chosen by ancient weapons and transformed by forgotten knowledge. We need to meet, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the chatter. If the Council wants to stop us, we need to understand what we're becoming and why they're afraid of it. Already working on it, David replied. I've identified a neutral system in the outer rim, Kepler 442. No major political affiliations, minimal population. There's an abandoned research station that should accommodate our ships. Crix looked concerned. Dr. Chen, I should point out that by participating in this gathering, I am committing treason against the Galactic Council. My military oath requires me to report these developments. Sarah turned to face him directly. Crix, in the 3 days we've worked together, you've seen me accomplish things that your records say are impossible. You've witnessed technology that makes your most advanced systems look primitive. Do you really think the Council has been telling the truth about human capabilities? The Vorthak officer was quiet for a long moment, his yellow eyes studying the stream of data flowing across the ship's displays. The evidence suggests that there has been systematic suppression of information, but the implications are staggering. If humans truly are the descendants of the Ascended, then the entire foundation of galactic civilization has been built on a lie. Then help us find the truth, Sarah said simply. Whatever your oath to the Council, you also have a duty to justice and truth. Crix's decision was reflected in the subtle change of his scale coloration, from military gray to the deep blue of determination. Very well, Dr. Chen. I will accompany you to this gathering, but I want to understand everything, the real history, the technology, and why the Council fears human ascension. The journey to Kepler 442 took 18 hours, during which Sarah spent her time learning to interface with the ship's vast database. The information contained within was staggering. Detailed records of the ascended civilization's rise and fall, technological specifications that were millennia ahead of current galactic standards, and most importantly, the true history of humanity's place in the galaxy. According to these records, Sarah reported to Crix as they approached the rendezvous point, the Ascended didn't just seed the galaxy with colonies. They were actively guiding the development of younger species, protecting them from external threats and helping them achieve their potential. What happened to them? Crix asked, studying the historical timelines displayed on the ship's screens. They encountered something called the void entities, beings from outside normal reality that consumed entire star systems. The war lasted for centuries and ended with the Ascended's victory, but at a terrible cost. Their civilization was shattered, their technology scattered, and their descendants were forced to start over from primitive conditions. And the Council knows this? The Council was formed from the species that the Ascended protected, Sarah said, her voice heavy with the implications. They found fragments of Ascended technology and used it to establish their authority. But they also found records warning of humanity's eventual return to power, so they've been working to prevent it for millennia. The abandoned research station at Kepler 442 was a massive structure, its modular design allowing it to accommodate ships of various sizes and configurations. As Sarah's vessel approached, she could see that 17 other craft were already docked, each one unique, reflecting the diverse backgrounds of their human operators. The gathering that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. 18 humans from across the galaxy, each carrying an Ascended weapon and bearing the genetic memories of a lost civilization, came together to share their experiences and plan their response to the Council's threat. David Park stood before the assembled group, his silver blade gleaming in the station's artificial lighting. We've all felt the same calling, experienced the same awakening. The question is, what do we do with this knowledge? We need to understand our capabilities first, said Commander Zhang, her weapon manifesting as a crystalline staff that pulsed within her light. I've been experimenting with my artifact's abilities. It doesn't just enhance physical skills, it's connected to something larger, a network that spans the entire galaxy. Professor Wright nodded, his ancient tome-like artifact displaying holographic text as he spoke. The historical records are clear. The Ascended didn't rule through force, they governed through wisdom and protection. If we're truly their inheritors, we have a responsibility to restore that legacy. The Council won't allow it, warned Maria. Santos, a pilot whose artifact had transformed her ship into something that could outrun any pursuit. They've spent too much time and effort maintaining the current order. They'll see us as a threat to everything they've built. Sarah stood, the crimson blade at her side casting dancing shadows across the walls. Then we need to prove them wrong. We're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to protect and guide just as our ancestors did. Easy words, said Thomas Chen, a miner whose artifact allowed him to reshape matter at the molecular level. But the Council has fleets, armies, weapons that can crack planets. What do we have? Sarah smiled, feeling the collective strength of the awakened humans around her. We have what they fear most. We have the truth, the technology to back it up, and the genetic right to use both. Crix, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, stepped forward. If I may interject, the Council's greatest weakness is their assumption that all threats will come from outside their power structure. They've never faced opposition from within their own protected species. What are you suggesting? Sarah asked. That not all Council members are complicit in this deception. Many, like myself, joined believing they were serving a just cause. If we can expose the truth about human heritage and the suppression of that knowledge, we might find allies among the very people sent to stop us. The gathering continued for hours as the awakened humans shared their discoveries and planned their next moves. Some advocated for immediate action, others counseled patience and careful preparation. But all agreed on one fundamental point: the Mao Galaxy deserved to know the truth about its history and humanity's role in it. As the meeting concluded, Sarah found herself standing with Crix on the station's observation deck, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. The crimson blade hummed softly at her side, its energy synchronized with her heartbeat. Do you think we're doing the right thing? She asked, challenging an order that has maintained peace for millennia. Crix's scaled features were thoughtful in the starlight. Peace built on lies is not true peace, Dr. Chen. It is merely the absence of conflict. True peace comes from understanding, cooperation, and justice. If the Ascended truly guided the galaxy toward that ideal, then perhaps it is time for their children to continue that work. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and possibility in equal measure. Behind them, the other awakened humans were preparing to depart, each carrying a piece of the greater truth that would soon reshape the galaxy's understanding of itself. The real adventure was just beginning. The hunt begins. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Nexus Prime within hours of the Kepler 442 gathering. Sarah watched the proceedings through intercepted communication channels. The Crimson Blade's enhanced technology, allowing her ship to penetrate even the Council's most secure networks. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, their varied forms creating a tapestry of galactic civilization. Admiral Thos of the Hegemony stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing emphatically as he addressed the assembly. The threat is beyond anything we have previously encountered. 18 humans have somehow accessed ascended technology and are actively recruiting others. Our xenobiologists estimate that thousands more humans carry the genetic markers for compatibility with these artifacts. Sarah felt Crix tense beside her as they watched his former superior speak. The Vorthok captain had chosen to stand with humanity, but the weight of that decision was clearly affecting him. The proposed solution is extreme but necessary, Admiral Thos continued. Immediate containment of all human populations, followed by genetic screening and selective sterilization of those carrying ascended markers. This will prevent further awakenings while maintaining galactic stability. The chamber erupted in discussion, voices raised in dozens of languages. Some delegates appeared shocked by the proposal, while others nodded in grim agreement. Sarah realized that the galaxy's leaders were seriously considering the systematic genocide of her species' potential. We can't let this happen, she said, her hand instinctively moving to the sword's hilt. They're talking about murdering millions of innocent people. The vote will be close, Crix observed, studying the body language of various delegates. Many species remember the prosperity they enjoyed under ascended protection. They may not support such drastic measures. The communication channel crackled with an incoming transmission from David Park. His face appeared on the screen, tense with urgency. Sarah, are you monitoring the council session? We need to act now before they have a chance to implement their containment protocols. What are you suggesting? Sarah asked. A demonstration, Something that proves we're not the threat they think we are. David's silver blade was visible behind him, pulsing with agitated energy. I've been working with the artifact's systems, and I think I found something that could change everything. Before Sarah could respond, the ship's proximity alarms activated. 6 Council interceptor vessels had dropped out of hyperspace nearby, their weapons already charging for attack. The lead ship opened communication channels, and Admiral Thos's familiar voice filled the bridge. Dr. Sarah Chen, by order of the Galactic Council, you are commanded to surrender yourself and the artifact in your possession. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Sarah looked at Crix, who was already moving toward the tactical station. Captain, I won't ask you to fire on your own people. They ceased to be my people the moment they decided to commit genocide, Crix replied, his claws dancing over the weapon controls. The artifacts you carry represent hope for the galaxy's future. I will not allow that hope to be extinguished. The First Council ships opened fire, their plasma cannons sending streaks of deadly energy toward Sarah's vessel. But the ascended technology responded with casual ease, generating shields that absorbed the attacks without strain. The ship itself seemed to anticipate the incoming fire, adjusting its position with fluid grace that made conventional evasive maneuvers look clumsy. Return fire. Minimal force, Sarah commanded, her connection to the ship allowing her to sense the life signs aboard the attacking vessels. Disable their weapons and engines, but avoid casualties if possible. The ship's response was surgical in its precision. Beams of crimson energy lanced out, striking the Council vessels with exactly enough force to cripple their systems without breaching their hulls. Within minutes, the entire attack squadron was drifting helplessly in space, their crews unharmed but their ships completely disabled. Impossible, Admiral Thos's voice carried obvious shock. Our intelligence indicated you possessed only archaeological equipment. Your intelligence was flawed, Sarah replied, opening a channel to the disabled ships. Admiral, I'm transmitting historical data that will explain everything. The Council has been operating under false assumptions about human nature and capabilities. I will not accept terrorist propaganda, Thos snapped back. Then verify it independently, Sarah challenged. Use your own archaeological teams, your own historians. Check the ascended ruins on Altair 7. Examine the genetic records from the pre-contact period, and ask yourself why every species in the galaxy has legends about benevolent star travelers who protected them from cosmic threats. The transmission cut off as Admiral Thos terminated the connection, but Sarah knew the seeds of doubt had been planted. The ship's sensors detected the Council vessels beginning their recovery procedures, their crews undoubtedly discussing what they had witnessed. Dr. Chen, Crix said, studying the tactical display, we have larger concerns. Long-range sensors are detecting movement throughout the galaxy. The Council is mobilizing everything. Battle fleets, hunter-killer squadrons, even mercenary contracts. Sarah felt the weight of galactic attention focusing on her and the other awakened humans. How long before they locate the others? Unknown, but the hunt has begun in earnest. David Park's position has been compromised. 3 battle groups are converging on his location. Sarah made her decision without hesitation. Set course for David's coordinates. We can't let them face this alone. The journey took 4 hours, during which Sarah spent her time learning to integrate with the ship's advanced systems. The ascended technology was responsive to thought and emotion, allowing her to interface with its capabilities on an intuitive level that bypassed conventional control methods. She discovered weapon systems that could disable entire fleets without killing anyone, defensive measures that could protect whole planets, and communication arrays that could reach across the galaxy instantaneously. They arrived at David's location to find him engaged in a running battle with Council forces. His ship, transformed by his Silverblade's influence, was a masterwork of speed and agility that darted between the massive Council vessels like a dancer avoiding clumsy giants. But he was outnumbered 50-1, and even ascended technology had limits. David, this is Sarah, she transmitted as her ship emerged from hyperspace. I'm here to help. About time, David replied, his voice strained from the extended combat. I've been playing hide-and-seek with half the Council Navy for the past 6 hours. Sarah's ship joined the battle with devastating effect. The Crimson Blade's power flowed through every system, allowing her to disable multiple Council vessels simultaneously, while avoiding their return fire with supernatural precision. Within minutes, the tide of battle had turned completely. But their victory was short-lived. The ship's long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. The Council was implementing their containment protocols, sending forces to every known human colony and outpost. Sarah were receiving transmissions from the other awakened humans, Crix reported. They're under attack across 17 star systems. The Council is moving faster than we anticipated. David's ship pulled alongside theirs, and his holographic image appeared on the bridge. I've been monitoring Council communications. They're not just hunting us. They're rounding up every human they can find for protective custody. The detention camps are already being prepared. Sarah felt rage building within her, amplified by the sword's resonance with her emotions. The Crimson Blade's glow intensified, and throughout the ship, systems began responding to her anger with increased power output. Then we stopped playing. Defense, she said, her voice carrying new authority. The time for hiding is over. What do you have in mind? David asked. Sarah turned to the navigation display, studying the positions of Council fleets and human populations. We gather the others. All of them. Every awakened human. Every ship we can reach. If the Council wants a demonstration of our capabilities, we'll give them one they'll never forget. That sounds dangerously close to a declaration of war, Crix warned. Not war, Sarah corrected, the sword pulsing with warm agreement. Liberation. The galaxy has been living under a lie for millennia. It's time they learned the truth. Over the next 72 hours, Sarah and David orchestrated the largest rescue operation in galactic history. Using the ascended ship's superior speed and stealth capabilities, they reached awakened humans across the galaxy, extracting them from Council custody and bringing them together into a growing fleet of unprecedented capability. Commander Zhang brought 3 more awakened humans from the Vega system. Professor Wright arrived with historical data that proved the Council's systematic suppression of human achievements. Maria Santos rescued a dozen humans from a detention facility on Rigel 4, her ship's capabilities allowing her to penetrate defenses that should have been impregnable. With each rescue, with each new ally, the fleet grew stronger. The awakened humans worked together with natural synchronization, their artifacts creating a network of shared knowledge and capability that amplified individual strengths into collective power. But the Council's response was equally dramatic. Admiral Thos had been given unlimited authority to deal with the human crisis, and he was using it to mobilize the largest military force in galactic history. Battle fleets from every member species were converging on strategic positions, preparing for a confrontation that could reshape the balance of power forever. We're receiving a transmission from the Council, Crix announced as their growing fleet regrouped in an empty sector between star systems. It's addressed to all awakened humans. Admiral Thos's image appeared before the assembled fleet, his expression grim but determined. To the humans who have stolen ascended technology, you have 48 hours to surrender yourselves and return the artifacts to Council custody. If you refuse, we will consider you a threat to galactic peace and respond accordingly. Sarah stood on the bridge of her ship, surrounded by holographic images of her fellow awakened humans. 18 had become 37, and more were joining them every hour as word spread throughout human space. What's our response? David asked, his silver blade reflecting the star field outside the bridge windows. Sarah looked around at the way, faces of her companions, scientists, explorers, miners, traders, and warriors who had discovered they were heirs to the galaxy's greatest civilization. Behind them stood allies like Crix, beings from other species who had chosen truth over comfortable lies. Our response, she said, raising the crimson blade so its light filled the bridge, is to show them what their ancestors always knew, that humanity's role isn't to conquer or destroy, but to protect and guide. If the Council wants a demonstration of our power, we'll give them one that proves we're exactly what the galaxy needs. The hunt had begun, but the hunted were about to become the hunters. The awakened children of the Ascended were ready to reclaim their heritage and reshape the galaxy's future. The final confrontation was approaching, and with it the dawn of a new age. The New Dawn, the final confrontation took place above Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. Sarah stood on the bridge of her flagship, now designated the Ascendant Dawn, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history assembled before them. Admiral Thos had gathered vessels from every member species, over 3,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation, their combined firepower capable of reducing entire star systems to cosmic dust. Against this overwhelming force stood 57 awakened humans in their transformed vessels, supported by a growing coalition of sympathetic aliens who had chosen to stand with the truth. The numbers were impossibly skewed, but Sarah felt no fear. The crimson blade at her side hummed with quiet confidence, and through her connection to the other awakened humans, she could sense their shared determination. Dr. Chen. Crix reported from the tactical station, his scaled features tense with concentration. Admiral Thos is hailing us on all frequencies. He's demanding our immediate surrender. Open the channel, Sarah replied, stepping forward to address not just the Admiral, but the entire galaxy watching these events unfold. Put it on full broadcast. I want every world, every ship, every citizen to hear what we have to say. Admiral Thos's image materialized before them, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of authority. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship buzzed with activity as hundreds of officers coordinated the massive fleet. Dr. Chen, you and your conspirators have 47 minutes remaining to surrender. The Council has voted unanimously to restore galactic stability, through whatever means necessary. Unanimously? Sarah questioned, raising an eyebrow. That's interesting considering we've been monitoring Council communications for the past week. Would you like me to share the recordings of Council members expressing doubt about your genocide proposal? Thos's expression hardened. Terrorist propaganda will not. Computer display transmission log, Hegemony 77 Alpha, Sarah interrupted. The bridge's holographic systems activated, showing a recorded conversation between Admiral Thos and several Council members. In the recording, voices of doubt and dissent were clearly audible, with multiple delegates questioning the morality and necessity of the proposed actions. You see, Sarah continued, addressing the galaxy through the open broadcast, the Admiral's unanimous vote was achieved through intimidation, suppression of evidence, and outright deception. The Council members weren't given access to the full historical records we've uncovered. David Park's voice joined the transmission from his silver-hulled vessel. Admiral, in the interest of preventing unnecessary bloodshed, we're prepared to offer a demonstration of our true capabilities. Computer, activate historical projection sequence. The space between the two fleets suddenly filled with massive holographic displays, showing the galaxy as it had existed millions of years ago. The projections depicted the ascended civilization at its height, vast cities spanning multiple worlds, peaceful trade routes protected by benevolent guardians, and species working together in harmony under wise guidance. This is your true history, Sarah announced, the Crimson Blade's energy amplifying her voice across every communication channel in the system. The Ascended didn't rule through force, they protected through wisdom. They didn't conquer, they nurtured. And when cosmic threats emerged, they stood as shields between the darkness and the light. The holographic display shifted, showing the war against the void entities. Admiral Thos and his officers watched in stunned silence as images of battles beyond imagination played out before them. Ascended warriors wielding weapons like Sarah's blade fought against horrors that defied description, sacrificing themselves to preserve the civilizations they had sworn to protect. The Ascended won that war, Sarah continued, but at a terrible so their civilization was shattered, their people scattered. Some went into deep space searching for new homes. Others chose to start over, seeding worlds with their genetic heritage and waiting for the day their descendants would be ready to reclaim their birthright. Professor Wright's ancient tome artifact projected additional data streams, showing genetic analyses that proved the connection between humanity and the Ascended. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and broadcast simultaneously to every world in the galaxy. "You've been living a lie for millennia," Sarah said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute truth. "The council you trust, the order you believe in, it was built on the suppression of this knowledge. They found fragments of ascended technology and used it to establish their authority, all while ensuring that humanity, the rightful inheritors, remained ignorant of their heritage." Admiral Thos had recovered from his initial shock, his military training reasserting itself. "Even if your claims are true, you represent a threat to the established order. Billions of beings depend on the Council's stability." "You're right," Sarah agreed, surprising everyone listening. "We do represent a threat to lies, to oppression, to the systematic suppression of truth and potential. But we're not here to destroy what you've built. We're here to transform it into something better." Commander Zhang's crystalline staff projected new holographic displays showing detailed plans for governmental reform, technological sharing programs, and defense initiatives that would benefit every species in the galaxy. "We're offering partnership, not conquest, cooperation, not domination. The artifacts we carry aren't weapons of war," added Maria Santos, her ship performing an intricate dance through space that demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything in the Council fleet. "They're tools of construction, protection, and guidance. Watch and learn." The awakened humans acted in perfect synchronization, their artifacts working together to project a protective field around a nearby asteroid. Before the watching fleet's eyes, the barren rock transformed into a garden world, complete with atmosphere, oceans, and the infrastructure to support millions of lives. "In the time it took us to have this conversation," Sarah explained, "we've created a world capable of housing an entire civilization. This is what ascended technology can do when used with wisdom and compassion. This is what we're offering the galaxy." The silence that followed was profound. Even Admiral Thos seemed struck speechless by the demonstration of creative power that dwarfed anything the Council had achieved in centuries of rule. It was broken by an unexpected voice. Councillor Vex of the Altarian Republic, one of the most respected members of the galactic government. "Admiral Thos, I am ordering you to stand down your fleet immediately. These humans have just demonstrated capabilities that could transform the galaxy for the better, and your response is to threaten them with annihilation." "Councillor, you don't understand the implications," Thos began. "I understand perfectly," Vex interrupted, her image appearing on public broadcasts throughout the fleet. "I understand that we've been operating under false assumptions for millennia. I understand that these humans possess the power to create worlds, and their first instinct is to share that gift rather than hoard it. And I understand that you've been advocating for genocide based on fear rather than fact." Other council members began joining the transmission, their voices adding to a growing chorus of dissent against Admiral Thos's hardline position. The unity he had claimed was crumbling as the truth became impossible to ignore. Sarah seized the moment. "We propose a new compact between species, not the domination of one over others, but true cooperation guided by wisdom and compassion." The Ascended. "Artifacts aren't meant for humans alone. They respond to any being who approaches them with pure intent and open heart." To demonstrate her point, Sarah gestured to Crix. "Captain Crix of the Vorthak species has been working alongside me since this began. Computer, extend artifact interface to Captain Crix." The Crimson Blade's energy flowed outward, enveloping Crix in gentle light. The Vorthak officer's eyes widened as knowledge flowed into his mind. Not human knowledge, but ascended wisdom adapted to his own species' understanding and capabilities. "By the 7 moons," Crix whispered, his scales shifting to colors of wonder and enlightenment. "I can see it, the network of protection and guidance that once spanned the galaxy. It's not about one species ruling others. It's about all species working together to achieve their highest potential." The demonstration had its intended effect. Throughout the Council fleet, voices of support began emerging. Species that had been oppressed under the current system saw hope for change. Scientists and explorers who had been frustrated by artificial limitations realized what true cooperation could achieve. Admiral Thos, however, remained unmoved. You may have convinced some weak-minded civilians, but I have my orders. All vessels prepare to engage. Target the human ships and fire on my command. But his orders went unheeded. Ship after ship in the Council fleet powered down their weapons, their crews refusing to fire on beings who had demonstrated nothing but benevolence and wisdom. The Admiral's authority crumbled as his own subordinates chose conscience over blind obedience. "Admiral," Sarah said gently, "stand down. This doesn't have to end in violence. We're offering you and your people a place in the new order, not as conquered subjects, but as honored partners in building a better galaxy." For a moment it seemed as though Thos might accept, but pride and decades of indoctrination proved too strong. With a snarl of rage, he activated his flagship's weapons personally, sending a barrage of plasma fire towards Sarah's vessel. The crimson blade flared with protective energy, effortlessly deflecting the attack. But instead of retaliating, Sarah did something unexpected. She extended the protective field to encompass Admiral Thos's ship as well, shielding him from the return fire of his own fleet members who were trying to stop his rogue attack. "This is what the Ascended were," she broadcast to the galaxy. "Protectors, even of those who sought to harm them. Guardians who valued all life, even the lives of their enemies." The gesture had a profound effect on everyone watching. Admiral Thos's own crew subdued him, unwilling to follow a leader who would attack beings dedicated to protection and creation. The last vestiges of the old order's military resistance crumbled in the face of humanity's demonstration of moral superiority. In the days that followed, the galaxy experienced a transformation unlike anything in recorded history. The awakened humans worked tirelessly to share ascended technology and wisdom with any species willing to embrace cooperation over competition. New worlds were created, old conflicts were resolved through enhanced understanding, and the threat of cosmic dangers was met with united purpose. Sarah stood once again on Zephyria, but now the Crimson Desert bloomed with life created through ascended terraforming technology. Beside her, Crix wore the insignia of the new Galactic Cooperative, an organization built on partnership rather than dominance, wisdom rather than force. "Do you think we've done the right thing?" Sarah asked, watching children from a dozen different species play together in gardens that had been barren sand just months before. "Look around you, Dr. Chen," Crix replied, his scales shifting to the warm gold of contentment. "The galaxy has never been more peaceful, more prosperous, or more united. The Ascended would be proud of what their children have accomplished." Sarah smiled, feeling the crimson blade's gentle warmth against her side. The weapon had taught her that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect and the courage to create. Humanity had reclaimed its heritage, not through conquest, but through demonstration of the very values that had made the Ascended great. The stars beckoned with infinite possibilities, and for the first time in millennia, the galaxy was ready to meet them with unity, wisdom, and hope. The age of the new Ascended had begun, and it would be an age of wonders beyond imagination.